You're listening to Reddit's Secret Confessions. I can't believe I'm even typing this. My fiancée cheated on me, and not with some random guy, with my dad. Just writing those words makes me feel sick. My name is Ethan. I'm 27. My fiancée is Sophie, 26. My dad is Victor, 52. My mom is Helen, 50. I thought I had a close family. I thought I had a future with Sophie. And in one day, both of those things were ripped away. Sophie and I met in college. She lived in my dorm building. We started hanging out. Later, I found out she lived only 2 towns away from me. So every time we drove home from school, she would ride with me. It was just an extra 20 minutes, but those rides were what brought us closer. We'd talk about everything, play music, grab fast food. By the end of that semester, we were dating. I introduced her to my parents pretty quickly. They liked her. My mom said she was polite. My dad said he liked that she had goals. Sophie's parents liked me too. Our families meshed well. Back then I thought that was the best sign. I thought this was it. I graduated a year before Sophie and got a job back home. I drove up to see her when I could. When she finished school, she moved in with me. We got an apartment close to our jobs. She had a solid job too. We lived together for 3 years. It felt steady. It felt right. I proposed. She said yes. We started planning the wedding. Now I look back and I see things I ignored. My dad calling Sophie a lot. If I asked, she would say it was about a family party or something with my mom. I didn't question it. One time she was in the shower and her phone rang. It was my dad. I answered. He sounded upset when he realized it was me. He said he just wanted to ask about my mom's birthday. I hung up. I didn't think anything of it, but now I feel like an idiot for not connecting the dots. The day I found out started normal. It was a Thursday. Sophie had the day off. She made me breakfast before I left for work. Eggs, toast, coffee. She kissed me at the door and told me to have a good day. On the way to work, I realized I had left some paperwork I needed for a meeting later that day. I told myself I'd just come home at lunch to grab it. I didn't text Sophie about it. She texted me through the morning. Just normal stuff. Asking what I wanted for dinner, saying she did the laundry. Nothing strange. At lunch I drove home. When I pulled into the lot, I saw a car that looked like my dad's. My stomach dropped a little, but I brushed it off. He visited sometimes. Maybe he was dropping something off. I walked upstairs and unlocked the door. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not normal silence, the heavy kind. Then I saw clothes on the floor. Some were Sophie's, some were clearly my dad's, a trail of them leading to the bedroom. I froze. My chest felt tight. My hands started shaking. I could hear faint noises coming from the bedroom. I stood there, unable to move, just staring at the clothes. After what felt like forever, I pulled out my phone and started recording. I don't even know why. Maybe I needed proof. Maybe I thought no one would believe me. I picked up the clothes and tossed them into the hall. My legs felt like lead as I walked toward the bedroom. The door was slightly open. I pushed it. I turned on the light. There they were. Sophie and Victor, in my bed, my fiancé, my father. They both froze. Sophie's eyes went wide. My dad grabbed for a towel. He shouted at me to stop recording. He tried to move toward me. I told him not to. He didn't listen. He reached for my phone. I swung and hit him in the jaw. He collapsed against the doorframe and slid down. Sophie screamed. I pointed the phone at her and told her she seemed worried about him but had nothing to say to me. She just sat there, silent. I told them I had only come home for paperwork. I told them if they were still there when I came back, I'd send the video to everyone. I looked at my dad and told him he was dead to me, not my father anymore. I told him to prepare to explain to Helen because I would be telling her soon. Then I walked out, still filming, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone. I sat in my car for I don't even know how long, just staring at the steering wheel. My chest felt like it was caving in. My phone buzzed with work reminders, and eventually my boss called. I answered and told her I was on my way back. At the office, I handed her the paperwork. She asked what was wrong. I said nothing. She noticed blood on my collar and asked if I was okay. I told her it wasn't mine. She kept pressing, so I showed her the video. She watched it without saying a word. When it ended, she just looked at me differently. She realized what she had seen. She told me I should take time off. I told her I couldn't. I forced myself through the meeting later that afternoon. I smiled, I nodded, I pretended. Afterward, she asked how I could do that. I told her I didn't know. That night I went back to the apartment. The place felt like a stranger's home. Everything looked the same but felt wrong. The couch, the bed, the photos, all poisoned. I sat on the floor for hours, unable to move. For the first time in years, I was completely alone. The next morning I woke up on the couch. I hadn't really slept, just drifted in and out. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Sophie, my dad, in my bed. The apartment felt empty, but also heavy, like the air was thick. I looked around at her clothes, her shoes, the little things she left on every surface. I couldn't stand it. My phone lit up. Dozens of texts from Sophie, asking where I was, asking if we could talk, asking if I was okay. None of them sounded like she was sorry. It was more like she was scared of the fallout. I didn't answer. Then calls came from Victor. I ignored them. Then my mom, Helen, called. That one hit me harder. She didn't know yet. I stared at her name on the screen until it went to voicemail. For hours I sat there, my chest tight, my stomach turning. I knew I had to tell her. But how do you even say something like that? How do you tell your mom that her husband and your fiancé were in bed together? I tried calling her once. It didn't connect. I tried again and again. Nothing. Finally, I told myself I had to just drive over there, face it. The whole drive I rehearsed what I might say, but my body wasn't having it. I had to pull over twice to throw up. I was shaking the whole time. When I pulled into the driveway, I just sat there gripping the wheel, my knuckles white, my heart pounding. Then the front door opened. Helen came out. She didn't look relieved to see me. She looked furious. She stormed toward me, shouting, telling me how dare I show up after hitting my father, calling me abusive, saying Victor was only trying to break up a fight between Sophie and me, saying Sophie wasn't ready to forgive me yet, and she hoped Sophie never would. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mom defending them against me. I just stood there, frozen, listening to her throw words like knives. Finally, I snapped. I told her the truth, that Victor was in my apartment, in my bed, with Sophie. She stopped mid-sentence. Her face changed. I pulled out my phone and said I had proof. I sent her the video right there in the driveway. She opened it. She watched. Her hands were shaking. Tears started streaming down her face. She stopped watching before it even finished. She looked at me, but I couldn't look back. I told her too much damage was already done, that because of the things she said to me, she was just as toxic as Victor. I told her not to expect forgiveness. Then I turned, got in my car, and backed out of the driveway. She was standing there crying, but I couldn't bring myself to stay. Her words echoed louder than her tears. When I got back to the apartment, I couldn't breathe looking at Sophie's stuff, her clothes, her photos, her makeup on the counter. All of it felt contaminated. I grabbed boxes and started packing. I stacked her things by the door. I didn't care if she came for them or not. I grabbed everything connected to my parents, too. Old photos, gifts, family keepsakes. I shoved them into boxes and took them to storage. Our family used to be close. Birthdays, vacations, cookouts. Now it all meant nothing. I texted Sophie's parents, told them the engagement was off, told them Sophie cheated, told them her belongings were packed, thanked them for being kind to me, but said I needed them to take her stuff so I didn't have to see her. They didn't reply. Days passed. My phone blew up nonstop. Sophie calling, Victor calling, Helen calling, even friends texting me, saying they had heard a different version. I ignored them all. The emotions came in waves, numbness, then rage, then sadness so heavy I couldn't breathe, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. Nights dragged on. The bed felt like a crime scene. I finally admitted I needed help. I called my doctor, scheduled STD testing, asked for a therapist referral. 2 weeks later, I sat in a therapist's office for the first time. She asked me to tell her what happened. I said it out loud for the first time. My fiancée cheated on me with my father. The words didn't even feel real. We talked about my family, my childhood. I told her how close we used to be. How Victor used to coach my games. How Helen always backed me up. Saying it out loud just made it sting more. She suggested weekly sessions. I agreed. I told her I felt like I was drowning. Therapy was the only thing keeping me above water. At the same time, I knew I couldn't stay in the apartment. It was poisoned. The bedroom felt haunted. Every corner reminded me of them. I told a friend, and he connected me with a real estate agent. I looked through dozens of listings and picked a small refurbished cabin on the edge of the city. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I moved out within weeks, packed everything, signed the lease. When I sat on the porch that first night, staring at the trees, I finally felt a little relief. Nobody knew where I was except one friend. That meant no surprise visits, no reminders, but the relief didn't last. My phone buzzed constantly, messages I didn't open, calls I didn't answer. At work, I moved like a ghost. In, out, no small talk. My boss checked on me. She looked worried. She had seen the video, so she knew. I told her I appreciated it, but I'd be fine. Truth was, I had no idea if I'd ever be fine again. Eventually, I unblocked Helen. Part of me wanted to hear her side again. We agreed to meet at a diner. She was already there when I arrived, crying. She apologized over and over, said she believed Victor at first, said she never thought something like him and Sophie could ever happen. I listened, but I couldn't forget her words. I told her I appreciated the apology, but I couldn't forgive what she said to me, that she had chosen them over me when I needed her most. Then she told me something that made my stomach drop. Sophie was pregnant. She didn't know if it was mine or Victor's. I couldn't even respond. My hands shook on the table. I just nodded, paid for my coffee, and walked out. The air outside felt heavy. I drove back to the cabin in silence, headlights cutting through the dark, my mind spinning. I realized my story wasn't over. It was about to get even worse. After that diner with Helen, I couldn't think straight. The pregnancy news hit harder than anything before. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. Now it was a mess that could follow me forever. Back at the cabin, I sat on the porch for hours, just staring. The woods were quiet, too quiet. Every sound made me flinch. A bird, a branch cracking, the creak of the chair under me. I felt sick. I couldn't stop checking my phone. Sophie's name popped up over and over, dozens of missed calls, texts asking me to talk, texts saying we had to figure this out, texts saying she was sorry. I didn't answer. Victor left voicemails too, long ones, some drunk, some calm, all ending the same way, begging me not to destroy the family. That word meant nothing to me anymore. Family was supposed to mean trust. That was gone. Work was the only place I could pretend. I went in. I finished tasks. I left. No small talk. No breaks with coworkers. Just me moving through the office like a shadow. My boss checked in a few times. She looked at me with pity. I hated that look. Therapy was the only place I didn't fake it. I told my therapist everything. She asked about Victor and Helen. I told her about my childhood, about camping trips, about birthdays, about how we used to laugh together, saying it felt like describing strangers. That family doesn't exist anymore. She asked about Sophie. I admitted I still replayed our past, our drives, the first time she said she loved me, the night I proposed. I asked myself if any of it was real. My therapist said, grief isn't only for people who die. It's for people who become someone you no longer know. That line stuck. Weeks passed. I tried building a routine in the cabin, waking up early, making coffee, walking by the woods before work. At night, I sat on the porch with cheap whiskey, staring at the sky, telling myself numbness was better than rage. Sophie's parents eventually texted. They said they had picked up her belongings from the apartment. They said they were sorry. I appreciated it, but it didn't fix anything. Helen called again. I let it go to voicemail. She said she had kicked Victor out. She said she had a lawyer. She said she wanted to fix things between us. I deleted it. I couldn't decide if I wanted her back in my life or not. One night I got a message from an unknown number. It was Sophie. She said she'd been to the doctor. She said she was pregnant for sure. She said she didn't know whose it was. She asked me to at least be part of the child's life if it was mine. I stared at the screen. Then I turned off my phone and tossed it aside. I couldn't breathe. I thought about the future I had pictured. A wedding, a house, kids someday, all gone, burned down. Now all I had was ashes, and I didn't know if I should rebuild or just walk away. Therapy kept me afloat. My therapist told me to stop isolating, to reach out to friends. I tried once. I met a friend for coffee. He talked about normal things, work, his family, his weekend plans. I nodded, but the whole time I felt disconnected, like I wasn't even there. Afterward, I shut my phone off again. Small things kept me going, fixing up the cabin, painting the walls, replacing fixtures, sanding down the porch. Every little project gave me some control back. This place became mine in a way the apartment with Sophie never was. But the quiet nights were the worst. Sitting alone, hearing echoes of Sophie's laugh in my head, hearing Victor's voice calling me son, wondering how long those sounds would haunt me. One session, my therapist asked what I wanted most right now. I thought about it for a long time. Then I said, peace. Not happiness, not closure, just peace. She said that was a start. Months passed. I worked, I fixed the cabin, I kept going to therapy. Helen reached out again, this time with a letter. She said she divorced Victor. She said she moved into her own place. She said she wanted me in her life again, but only when I was ready. I folded the letter, put it in a drawer. I didn't reply. I didn't throw it away either. Sophie went silent for weeks. Then another message came. She said she gave birth early. No details, no photos, just that. My heart stopped. I didn't reply. I didn't know if I ever could. The next days blurred. I tried focusing on work, but my mind kept wandering. I caught myself staring at spreadsheets without reading a single number. I'd walk to the kitchen at the office and forget why I was there. People probably noticed, but no one said anything. Nights at the cabin stretched longer. I'd sit with the TV on, volume low, just to have some background noise. Sometimes I'd play the same movie 3 times in a row without actually watching it. The silence was worse than anything. I started writing things down, just random thoughts, pages filled with half sentences. I didn't even know what I was writing for, maybe just to get the noise out of my head. Sometimes I'd burn the pages in the fire pit outside. Watching them curl and turn to ash felt like the only closure I could get. The weather changed. Cold mornings left frost on the porch. I'd stand there with a mug of coffee, watching my breath fog up in the air. I thought about how Sophie used to complain about the cold, about how she'd steal my hoodies. That memory used to make me smile. Now it made me want to throw the mug against the trees. One evening, I drove past the street where Sophie's parents lived. I didn't stop. I just slowed down, stared at the house, then kept going. Lights were on in the living room. For a second, I thought about what it would be like to walk up, knock on the door, and see the baby. My chest tightened. I pressed the gas and didn't look back. In therapy, I admitted I didn't know if I wanted to know the truth, if the baby was mine. Part of me thought knowing would break me more. Another part thought not knowing was worse. My therapist said I didn't need to decide yet, that I could give myself time. Time. That word feels both empty and heavy. Everyone says time heals, but when every day drags, time feels like punishment. I keep thinking about the word family, what it used to mean, what it means now. I used to think family was automatic, that no matter what happened, we'd be there for each other. Now I know family can betray you deeper than anyone else. Some nights I sit outside in the dark, listening to the woods. I wonder if I'll ever feel normal again, if laughter will feel real, if love will feel safe. Right now it doesn't. Now I sit here on the porch again. Same chair, same creak. The air cold on my face. The cabin feels like both a refuge and a prison. I've cut almost everyone out of my life. Maybe that's survival. Maybe it's cowardice. I don't know. All I know is that the people I trusted most destroyed the version of me I used to be. What comes after? I can't say yet. Subscribe for more Reddit secret confessions.